Welcome again to Lakeshore Focus, a weekly show highlighting the key issues, important events, and interesting people in our region. I'm Keith Kirkpatrick. The last few years have been an interesting time for recent college graduates. It's become a stigma that more grads are working at places like Starbucks, Burger King, or The Gap rather than in their career field of choice. Is this a result of the job climate, or are our young adults not prepared to compete in today's workforce? Discussing this topic with us today is Chris Smith, the Vice President of Human Resources at NIPSCO, and Carey Monroe, the Director of Career and Leadership Development at St. Joseph's College. I bet some of our viewers are going, St. Joseph's College, where is that?
I know where it is. That's right, Rensselaer, Indiana.
And you are part of our region, and
Absolutely.
I'm glad you're here, because you live in Crown Point, right?
Cedar Lake.
Cedar Lake.
Yes.
Close enough, one of the C's,
Yes.
with two words, right?
That's right.
I'm covering myself here really,
You
really
are.
well. And Chris, you've been here how long now?
Been here in the region for 5 years.
5 years. So they brought you in from the east?
From the East Coast. I was living in Virginia, but I'm a native to Indiana. I grew up in southwestern Indiana, though, so I call Evansville home.
Oh,
originally.
okay. Well, we're glad to have you up in this region. You know, now, I'm not saying you guys are old, but it has been a while since you've both been in college, probably, right? I mean, attending college.
Sure.
But you're working with students who are looking for jobs, and you're interviewing
Absolutely.
students who are looking for jobs. So you guys should be great experts on this, right?
We hope so.
I hope so. Yeah, right.
So, you know, in the introduction, I was talking about the stigma. That do you find that we are seeing students come out of school today and they're just not being able to find jobs, so they are kind of taking that second or third choice of a job? They're working at a Starbucks. Is that really truly happening?
I think that it does happen, but I also think that there's a reason for that. They're not preparing themselves ahead of time, and you really have to be on top of your game in today's market.
And you know, and I don't want to say that those aren't good places to work. I'm just saying,
Sure.
But and as opposed to a choice of field they want to go into.
Right.
I mean, if they've studied for something, they probably want to get into a job.
Absolutely.
And those are kind of a backup. You see that?
I think it's extremely competitive. I agree with you 100%. I think for students who are looking at careers in engineering, technology, even some of the more two-year technical schools, I don't think that they really have a problem finding careers. I think a person like me who I studied liberal arts, I studied English in undergrad, it can be a little bit more difficult to find a career out there.
So there is life after being an English major.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So what did you major in?
I majored in physical education and health for my undergrad.
Were you able to get a job real quick?
No.
Really?
No, I went back. It's very difficult to find a physical education teaching position because there are so few of them and so many cutbacks have happened. So I actually took the test and got an endorsement to teach business in high school. So I never taught PE or health.
So when you got out with that English degree, were you able to get in the market pretty quick?
You know, ironically, I was. The market that I got into was business because I took a couple of internships, specifically in HR. And the last internship that I had, they offered me a job the last day of my internship. So I went into my senior year knowing that I was going to come out with a degree, whereas a lot of my friends who were business majors at Indiana University did not have job offers. So I was one of the few fortunate ones.
So it's like that old song, "What's the matter with kids today?" I mean, so what's the matter? Is there something wrong with the young people coming out of college that's making them a little hard to employ? You guys at NIPSCO interview a lot of people.
We interview a lot of folks. You know, I don't know if I would couch it as something wrong. I think a lot of students maybe don't know what they want to do longer term, so they spend a lot of their undergrad years trying to figure that out. Some students, though, I think it's a little bit different. They go in, they know I want to be a finance major, I want to become a financial analyst, or I want to be an engineer long term. They study that and they come out. They probably are in a better position because they have, in my opinion, I think a better idea of what they want to go into longer term. But I wouldn't couch it as there's something wrong with the students today.
But you know, it's so interesting when you talk to adults who've been in the work world for 15 to 40 years or something. Many of them will say, "This was not. I'm working in a field I never planned on being in."
Right.
So we still keep telling students that they need to know that, but when they get out, they're oftentimes getting into completely different fields. So why do we even have people going into a field of study if that's really the case?
I think it's a great idea to be well-rounded, just as, the liberal arts degree that teaches you to be a critical thinker and have time management and be able to lead teams.
And good English skills.
Good English
Okay.
skills.
Right.
So I think that's really important for students, but I think they also have to keep an open mind. Just because you're going into a certain field doesn't mean that that's where you're going to be happy.
So is part of this that they really don't know how to look for a job today? Is that part of the problem?
Well, I think one of the things we try to encourage students to do is learn a little bit more about NIPSCO. Hey, if you're interested in working with us, maybe consider an internship before you say, hey, I want to work for NIPSCO and retire from NIPSCO after a long career. Think about interning at companies and figuring out, okay, I went to school for 4 years and studied this particular field of study. Is this something that I can see myself doing day in and day out long term? The answer could be, no, it's not. So I think just as it's important to know what you want to do, it's also important to know maybe what you don't want to do longer term. And I think an internship can help with that.
Do you see people coming in who just really don't even know much about NIPSCO? I mean,
A lot of the folks who say aren't from the region, they know that, okay, I must pay my utilities someplace. For folks who grew up here in Northwest India, though, they know NIPSCO. They might not know NiSource, our parent company, but they certainly know NIPSCO.
but do they even know what kind of jobs are there?
Most people, I think, associate NIPSCO with, okay, it's a utility, so I have to be an engineer, or I have to be, a lineman or a gas serviceman. But, we have HR positions that are open. We have finance positions, audit positions. So, a true, if you decide that you have more of a business background versus a STEM background, we would love and we host interns in those fields as well.
Yeah, what is, I hate to keep saying what's wrong with, but I see students who don't even check out the company before they walk in the door. They must be getting that message that they need to do that, or are they not getting the message, or they just don't do it?
I don't think that they're getting the message. As far as career development's concerned on college campus, we try to get our students in as freshmen to do job shadows. But I still, on a daily basis, have seniors walk into my office, and it's the first time that I have seen them. And they're going to be graduating in a few months, and they have no idea what they need to do. They've never had an internship. They've never had a resume critique. Nothing.
So you at that point tell them, look, one of the things you need to do when you go into a company is check it out before
Absolutely.
you go, right? So,
Absolutely.
And they always follow your advice, right?
They should.
I know they should, but do they?
They don't, probably, but they should.
So that's quite a different. Do you see the people coming in being pretty prepared, or?
It varies. Some folks, again, who aren't really familiar with NIPSCO or NiSource, they'll call us NICOR. We've had, seasoned folks who would come in and refer to you by the wrong name. So for
Fatal
us,
mistake?
Fatal, it can be, right?
Okay.
Some things are forgiven, but you would expect especially in a very competitive environment, that someone has done some research on the company. You might not know what our market cap is. You probably, if you've opened up, the Yahoo financial section, you should at least know maybe what our core competencies are, what we actually do. Or if you just open up the local paper, being that we're one of the employers here in Northwest Indiana, at least what are some of the things going on within our company right now.
Right, that would seem to be essential to know. So I want to ask both of you, maybe give me an example of a really good success case. One of the students you've worked with, or maybe somebody you've interviewed, you're like, man, this person, for all these reasons, was outstanding.
Okay, we actually had a student graduate last year with a computer science degree, which computer science degrees are fairly easy to get a position, but you still have to put yourself out there. So this student had done a job shadow as a freshman, created a resume and cover letter as a sophomore, done mock interviews, so they were familiar with the interview process. They started internship work in their junior year and just really put themselves out there. And by the time he was a senior in December, he had 3 job offers.
Wow. So that preparation way in advance,
Absolutely.
getting comfortable with the whole interviewing process, being at places, so doing the internship and really seeing what that work environment looks like,
Right.
then you're not walking in blindly going, I wonder what they do around here, how they do it.
Right.
So can you talk about maybe a candidate that you've had that's
Absolutely.
like, oh my gosh, I was blown away by this?
We've had some folks, I think, who've come in, they've interviewed very well, but they were also able to humble themselves when they actually had the opportunity for an internship. So you think about what we do, it's a lot of, it can be tough work, but you come in as an intern, you're out there in the field, it's some humbling work as well, okay? So this person who came in, learned the role, was able to meet people, interact with folks, did a great job for us, did a couple of internships with us, so not just one. When the opportunity finally presented itself, he hired on as an engineering tech and is doing a great job for us.
Now you both sound like you've almost got to do an internship to get a job. It almost sounds like that. Is that really?
I wouldn't say like 100%, but I think it really does help. A lot of what you don't get when you're in college is that, the unspoken rules, if you will. The politics, and there's politics everywhere, but I think coming in, especially as a student, not having worked in corporate America or just worked out in the field, you have to kind of navigate through some things. And I think an internship exposes students to some of the dynamics of working in an office environment, working out in the field.
Right, and we learn all the time in Leadership Northwest Indiana how important it is to network just for business purposes. So that's the same way with students. They have to be networking and getting to know people in the field ahead of time.
Again, there's another, thanks for the plug, by the way,
you're
but there's another one of those things, that networking piece. Again, so many young people seem to have no clue of how to do that.
Right, yeah.
Where's that disconnect?
Technology,
Yeah, I think that's a big one.
I think.
So what does that mean? They're so busy on the phone and this
Behind the
thing?
computer.
Yeah, that's their version of networking. I think
Right.
that's important, but based on generational differences, based on cultural differences, every person maybe networks or interacts differently. So there's nothing wrong with social media or using technology to text and FaceTime or get on Facebook. But I think there's something to be said about a face-to-face interaction, taking a person to lunch, asking them a couple of important questions. Hey, what do you do? How long have you been with the company? That can go a long way with students who are coming into the workforce.
So they haven't really kind of learned this thing
Right,
yet. How
a
you
handshake,
doing? Yeah.
eye contact.
Yeah.
Those things are important in terms of how you present yourself.
And again, it's back to it's the experience and the comfort with doing that, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Because again, I can come into you the end of my senior year and you tell me I should be networking, but if I don't know how to do that,
Right.
I'm going to be pretty stiff at it, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
So how about one of those people who walk through the door you sometimes and go, oh my gosh, I don't even really want to spend a couple minutes with this person. Right from the start, I can see they're going no place.
We've seen it. A person who is just like looking down, you're having a conversation. You expect for there to be some, eye contact, little back and forth, but this person only looks down, and they kind of talk or mumble. Like, those are things that, you're probably, based on the kind of role you might go into at NIPSCO or NISource, they might not be the best fit for you, especially if, it requires a lot of, high touch with others.
So describe that student that walks through, or you just imagine they walked in and you're like, oh my gosh, that's a picture of total failure.
Yes.
What
That's
does
the
that look
student
like?
who has not done anything to build up their resume throughout all 4 years of college. And I have a lot of those.
Now, we had a big discussion recently at a group talking about we sometimes send so many messages to people about building your resume rather than get good experience, which can be added to your resume. Any comment on that? Are we giving a disservice by telling build your resume, build your resume?
I think for me, build your resume means get good experience. So you have to pick and choose those experiences, and you need to talk to someone knowledgeable to begin with in order to know what direction to go.
So what does it mean to you? You worked with Pepsi before and pharmaceutical company too.
Yes.
So you've kind of seen a whole lot of people over the years. So what does it mean if somebody comes in and they again really make a strong impression on you? What are they doing? I'm still looking for those good things.
I look at it like, a solid GPA is almost like a price of entry. In a competitive world today, everyone has a solid GPA. What else have you done during your 4 years or 4+ years of college? Folks who've done things within the university or college community, folks who've done things outside of college, students who are putting themselves through school, working a part-time or full-time job. Those are a lot of the things that will differentiate, students from others in a very competitive world. And then can you articulate what you've done, or say the role that you played on a project team related to a prior internship experience that you've had, or a project team that you've done within school? Can you talk about what you really did to contribute to that team's success? Those are the things that we're looking for. I think those are things that really help build a resume, leveraging those experiences. Again, you might have had great experiences, but can you articulate those things to a hiring manager or to an HR person?
Now, I'm gonna make a controversial statement and see, 'cause, all my faculty friends who are watching this are probably gonna shoot me later, but I often will tell a student coming straight out of college, the only time your GPA is really gonna matter is your first job out. After that, nobody asks your GPA unless you're gonna go to grad school. So how do you react to that? Now, you could be in trouble too, because you work on a campus.
I actually got in trouble when I first started this position because I said it's not what you know, it's who you know. I got in big trouble from the faculty members for that, so yes. But I would actually disagree with that,
Okay.
and the reason that I disagree with that, your GPA it tells the story of what you did when you were in
Okay.
college, whether it was important to you, enough to study, enough to get good grades, do the extra credit, go over and above. So I really think that it is important, and
Okay.
I think that people will look at it going back as well. I don't know how you feel about that.
I would
but-
agree with you. I mean, I've actually been in interviews myself where I've been asked, so what was your GPA coming out of high school?
So what was your GPA when you were in college?
When I was in college, I graduated with a 3.34.
Okay.
I was a liberal arts major. I was able to get a job right out of school. So, you ask yourself, did they really look at my GPA or not?
Right.
But again, I mean, people will ask you the question, so what was your GPA? Do you list it on your resume or not?
Right.
Again, I think it's different schools of thought. Again, I think if you're talking about a very competitive world, people are looking for differentiators between two candidates. So again, I think, people also say, so does it matter the school that you went to as long as it's accredited? That can matter, right? And I think depending on who you're interviewing with, it might matter more or less. But I also agree with what you said in terms of it's not so much of what you know, it is who you know. Networking is extremely important in business.
You can quote him.
Yeah, don't say that to faculty.
Yeah, that's extremely important.
Well, and why do you think that is important?
Just because of the networking and getting your foot in the door. I really think, so many people that I know that I've helped find positions. Well, I even emailed you last year about a couple students. That right there says a lot. So they have to be reaching out for help.
So what other message do we need to be getting out to young people about being more competitive or being more successful in job hunting?
Go ahead.
Well, you both were going to jump in, so that's good.
Again, I think in terms of the networking, take advantage of every opportunity you have when you meet someone. How you present yourself really does matter. So you never know, this thing that what you think is a chance encounter could be leveraged into at least an opportunity to get in front of other folks, say a hiring manager or an HR person. I would say, focus on, academics, focus on having a solid GPA. Have fun, though, while you're in school. Those are, I think back to my time at Indiana
Do you really need to
University.
give young people advice to have fun?
I think sometimes you do.
Okay.
I think sometimes you're so focused on, what else is out there, what's moving on past college. Sometimes I think you have to just stop and appreciate, the experiences. Those people that you meet in undergrad, those are future network points that you will have.
Yeah, that's real
Right.
important. What advice would you give?
Mine would be get to your career development office immediately upon your arrival to campus because they host events that you can go to, networking events. They're your primary contact for alumni that own businesses. Just get help.
Absolutely.
Well, my experience has been that we have some really good career placement people at all the universities in this area,
Absolutely.
so I concur with that. And I really appreciate you both being on here today to kind of share these thoughts. There seems to be a critical disconnection between those who are unemployed and looking for work and the employers who have job openings which are not being filled. I believe that the employers are posting many of the jobs, or not posting those jobs, but are quietly looking for other key positions. They proceed cautiously because they do not want to spend so much time interviewing and screening with no results. Our economy is changing, and so are the rules of how careers develop. There are more contract workers, layoffs, temporary assignments, cutbacks, and reorganizations. Much of this is being done by businesses and organizations in order to respond to a changing global economy. The growing job classifications are described in terms of technology, service, and information. Those types of jobs require skills working with computers, data, advanced machinery, reporting systems, and technical information. The ability to interact with people has also gained greater importance as we deal with a more diverse workforce and a worldwide marketplace. Job seekers must be employable, but what does that mean? It means that each person looking for employment needs to have the minimum skills and qualifications being sought. It also means that he or she must have good work habits, compatible values, and a positive attitude. I've heard many managers and business owners say we can train anyone to do the job if they have the right attitude and want to learn. Job seekers also need to adapt in new ways to job hunting. Most are told to create resumes and go online to complete applications. I have found that nothing substitutes for a direct contact with a real person at a business. Referrals through friends, taking a tour, being a customer, or just knocking on the door can give you a first-hand understanding of what they do and how they do it. Before you take that step, find out about the business, arrive knowledgeable, and be genuinely interested. I'm always pleasantly surprised when an applicant shows up at my door and makes a good impression. I have hired a few people like that. After viewing the show, can you think of someone who could benefit from today's topic? Email that person and send us a copy. Your comments and questions are always interesting to hear. Reach us through our email address or website, which are both listed on your screen. Join us next week for another Lakeshore Focus. I'm Keith Kirkpatrick saying, make a positive difference in our world today.